Dear dignitaries, here today, all protocol observed, peace, Mirembe, warmth from Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. I am Robinah Alambuya, a Ugandan woman, teacher, mother, a disability inclusive advocate with a psychosocial disability, and I am the president of Transforming Communities for Inclusion, TCI-Global. TCI-Global African chapter welcomes this opportunity to be part of this panel on the as we celebrate the entry into force of the protocol on the rights of persons with disabilities and sensitization for the entry into force of the protocol on the rights of older persons. I am privileged to share my perspective as a self-advocate with psychosocial disability, born, grown, and living in Africa. A survivor of institutions. And I'm here today sharing with you a right to live within the community and harmful cultural practices as addressed by the African Disability Protocol. TCI-Global is a global organization, voice of persons with psychosocial disabilities around the world, including in the African countries. TCI-Global has a goal to build a right-based momentum at the national level and establish a movement of organizations of persons with disabilities so that we can work with national policy makers and development actors. TCI plays a vital role in driving advocacy from a right-based perspective and in accordance with the CRPD, we mobilize members to engage in regional and global advocacy spaces. TCI-Global is bringing at regional and global policy spaces what has worked at grassroots communities here in Africa and the other parts of the world to prevent institutionalization and advocate for deinstitutionalization so that we can embrace community inclusion for persons with disabilities. Now the reality is that even after so many years of the CRPD, we persons with sexual disabilities continue to be discriminated in communities. Living independently and being included in the community is still far from many of us. No access to the CRPD rights, and people with sexual disabilities are left out of accessing culture, political, social, and independent living, fundamental human rights. We are rarely included in policy circles at national, regional, and global levels by the development stakeholders, not being fully included at OPD consultations. The lack of awareness on disability diversity has birthed myths, misconceptions, stereotypes, and we are viewed as a result of curses, witchcraft, past sins, evil spirits, and omens. This leads to stigma and discrimination against us and barriers to meaningful participation in society. The African cultural norms, traditions, and religious beliefs, destructive labels attached to us, derogatory language used to refer to us in the different African countries and languages, All these fuel the prevalent harmful practices, social exclusion, rights violation, denial of legal capacity. We are put in different forms of institutions, locked in small houses and or rooms, tied with ropes and chains on trees in shrines, even at worship centers, and sometimes even in the healthcare centers. Community behaviors like this and exclusion in grassroots communities, behavior of families are all disabling to us. Institutionalization of persons with psychosocial disabilities in the name of care on basis of identities and under the legal incapacity laws, physical abuse, sexual and inhuman treatment within the various institutions is our fate. We are beaten, stripped naked, put in seclusion rooms that are dark and cold, and many other inhuman treatments. Words and the time may not be enough to tell this fate. These harmful practices put our lives at risk, and many of our brothers and sisters have lost their lives in painful ways. In conclusion, what we need is support of community inclusion by strengthening the African indigenous support systems, Ubuntu spirit, for making communities inclusive. Establishing and scaling of the CRPD compliant support services to ensure access to mainstream services for persons with psychosocial disabilities. Dismantling and eliminating of legal shackling and legal barriers. Our inclusion in disability legislations must be ensured. Funding and budgets to be allocated for implementation of the DI guideline, the UNDI guidelines, preparing communities and policy reforms for at national levels. Organizations of persons with disabilities must be involved and engaged in consultations. And we need more support for organizations of persons with disabilities, especially psychosocial disabilities, to be established. Networks and collaborations at all levels to be supported and strengthened. Dear dignitaries, as I conclude, in the coming into force of the African Disability Protocol, this coming into force provides great opportunity with the backbone of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to us as persons with disabilities and our representative organizations. We will be able to advance our advocacy efforts towards full implementation of the protocol and its universal ratification by the African states. It is our hope that if states play their role with the African Disability Protocol, we will then enjoy the inherent dignity that we long for, making a meaningful contribution to sustainable development for all. Asante, mwebale.